guys?
Let's go.
Light this candle. Live from the Echo Network Studios here in Royal Oak, Michigan. This is Odd Musings. I'm your host, Brent Vinson, along with the other host,
Scott Zambelli.
and we're joined with Randy Zimmerman from Flint, Michigan, of Flint Comix, Arrow Comics, Caliber Comics, Spank the Monkey. I don't know what else you got. You got so many credits.
Legendary
Randy Zimmerman.
Been there for a while.
Welcome to the studios.
Not going away.
Yes, good. We'd hate for you to go away. You're the voice of reason in comicdom that people don't even realize.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to you, I learn something new.
Well, I keep threatening to get a referee shirt and a whistle.
I think you should.
Start a video channel.
There you go.
Start calling plays.
Randy Zimmerman, comic referee.
There you go.
That would be a really good like website or something where people could send in thing and you do a replay and talk about the situation.
Calling the news.
That's right. I love it.
I think we gotta get you. We gotta decide though. Are you gonna be like a football where you have a yellow flag, or are we gonna get you the cards like they do in soccer?
Oh, hey, I've already thought about that. It's comics, so it's all inclusive.
Okay.
We'll call plays and
Yellow flags, red cards, green
Red
cards.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely, the whole thing. Just pull it out as you need it.
There we go.
All the hand signals and everything. It'll be great.
Awesome. I think that'll work. I think we need that. I think comics have gotten crazy. That's what we're going to talk about today is Comic Gate. We're not going to get, I guess, overly political. We're definitely going to talk a lot of stuff. Try to generate the talk a little bit, but definitely...
We'll try to cover this in a way that just talks about actual facts without leaning to one side or the other. Unfortunately, we're in an environment where if they disagree with where you're going, it's automatically leaning.
Well, and that's the thing. And the beauty of it is we've got such a wide gambit here of all of us that I think we agree on a lot of things, but even the stuff we don't necessarily agree on, we can talk intellectually and civilly. Civil?
That'll be new for comics.
I know, lately. But yeah, so this should be fun in that. But let's just start off with how every week's been. Randy, how you been? We haven't seen you in a little while.
Crazy. It's been good, though.
And you've been busy organizing your upcoming Flint Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah. Throwing my party.
Yeah.
Yep, that's about it. Having the different, it's like day to day. One day it's a tragedy, and the next day, that's solved. And then the next tragedy, and it's like, there's no tables. Well, now there's tables. There's no parking. Now there's parking.
When you hear people talk about, like, Comic-Con organizers, well, Comic Expo organizers. We can't say Comic-Con anymore. We'll get sued or something. But
I use it anyway.
I know.
It's like calling a copy of Xerox.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to happen.
I agree. When you hear people, though, a lot of times I'll hear, like, sometimes I hear other artists or other people on show floors like, well, I should start my own Comic-Con. What's your thoughts when you hear people talk about how they should start up their own Comic-Con?
Everybody that asks me, it's the same thing. It's anybody that's asked me over the years about self-publishing. It's always, do your research.
Yeah.
You better look into it.
It's really a lot more work than people think.
You want to start a comic shop, you better do your research because you won't be around for very long if you don't.
Right.
That's the big thing.
How many years has Flint Comic-Con been going on now?
Next April, we'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And the reason we threw the Comic-Con in the first place is to celebrate the fact that the Flint Comix newspaper was actually out for a year.
Oh, okay. So you're hitting the 11-year anniversary of that.
Yeah, technically it's still the 10 anniversary. We've been bi-monthly for a little while now, so our intentionally kind of, which has really worked out to my advantage because by the time we hit issue 100, we'll be right on April when the show happens. So we'll be celebrating the 100th issue of Flint Comix and the 10th issue or the 10th anniversary of us being out there and the 10th anniversary for the Comics Con.
I think it's just one of the great things in the comic industry is Flint Comix. It was a nice departure from what people had seen for many years.
I wish everybody else knew that.
Oh, I mean,
we are such a local publication, and we're so ignored by the comic press at times it drives me crazy.
Yeah, I don't think they realize the amount of comic gold coming out of Flint Comix. You have creators creating original stuff. You're able to go back and get licensed stuff to have in the paper.
Right.
You are truly bringing back the real art form of the comic strip, and you're not just putting like, okay, here's this one little strip. You put in like a week's worth of these
months worth,
usually, yeah. Because you got a lot of Sunday comic stuff going in there too.
Oh yeah, yep.
And that's one of the best read ones. You've got great articles because you actually do articles.
Yep.
You've got Perry Toth doing her articles and interviews with people, and those have been some of the great. Well, like Dominic who's not here, he's on his way to New York, and they're promoting their new Roddy Piper comic. Well, she got to interview Roddy Piper, and it was in the Flint Comix paper.
Yeah, and we ran that interview, I think, the month after he passed, too, which was...
Yeah, because it was like she did it, and then also he died, and they ran it, so...
There's the latest issue.
Yeah.
So...
And these are great. And right here, you got right on the cover, you got HeroBot versus See-Through Baby. See-Through Baby is one of Perry's creations from when she was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's now 18.
Yep.
And HeroBot is one of Randy's creations.
Yeah. I mean, this is just awesome. And the thing is, guys, the Flint Comix, I love what Randy did. He's not saying, I'm putting this out there and it's $2, $3, $4. It's free because he gets advertisers to help pay for that and put it all around there. And next you open it up, what do you see here? Oh, look. We have advertising for other shows and comic stores. You've got Donna's Donuts. Oh, can't wait for Donna's. We get Donna's Donuts, right?
Yep.
Oh, good.
Can I just interject here?
Yeah.
It's a tradition.
You guys got to get this issue of Flint Comix because to just see See-Through Baby.
See-Through Baby is awesome. I have 2 T-shirts from the Mid-Ohio Con when they used See-Through Baby on the crew shirts. Oh, awesome. Being good friends with Perry and Tornado and Shelley, they made sure that I got a shirt and that, and it's awesome. And actually, the actual crew shirt is actually glow in the dark, and then they gave me another one like sometime later. It's the exact same design, just wasn't glow in the dark.
Awesome.
But I mean, this is a character that Levi Krause helped bring to life with Perry.
Well, because at the time Perry was what, 6?
She was 6. Yeah, she drew See-Through Baby as kind of like a star, and just little stuff inside because that's how she knew how to draw.
Yep.
And now she's gotten so much better.
Yeah.
And but her writing and her interview skills are way beyond an 18-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
She is just phenomenal in that. And that's where you can read her at. You can read her in the Flint Comix. And when she goes anywhere, she's promoting Flint Comix everywhere. So.
And if you come to the Fall Fest here that's coming up October 13th, she's going to have a book of collection of all of the See-Through Baby stuff and the interviews that she's done.
Awesome. Awesome.
Also,
It'll be amazing.
you
I
get
can
these
remember.
available for free for those who come in, right?
Oh, yeah.
These are laying out. You can get past issues.
All you got to do is get around the Flint area. You can find one for free. Just look for Red Box.
One thing I love about
Folds out like a newspaper.
One thing I love about Flint Comix too is your strips in here. You got the old classics in here. You got Prince Valiant and Flash Gordon. I mean, Prince Valiant is probably the comic strip I attribute most to me falling in love with comic art.
That's classic art.
I every Sunday, I look forward to seeing those comics in there. The detail, the level of detail. Same with the Flash Gordon. I mean, there's so much detail, and looking at how they did the artwork then, it's just amazing to me. But yeah, Prince Valiant, the artwork for that series just always brought me right into that world. It just, and from there, that's probably where my love of He-Man and everything else came from, but because it was those tales.
Well, I mean, we're on that generation that still could read newspapers from the 70s and 80s when they were still available, and every day for me on a daily paper we'd get it. We used to, growing up, we got the Ypsilanti News, which is long gone, got absorbed by the Ann Arbor News, which I never liked their comics, but Ypsilanti always had the best comics. And every day I'd read the paper, it'd be, as a kid, I was going right to the comics, read it, and then Sunday, when you got the multi-page full color, that was just fantastic. And you're like, every week I look for those, and you read like the Prince Valiants, you read the Mark Trails, you read things that would pop up like that, you read the little one-shot stuff like from Family Circus or Barney Google and Snuffy Smith, things like that.
And I think way back then, back in the 70s and 80s, I think the Oakland Press actually put out a comic book every Sunday that they included inside the
see, that would have been awesome.
I've got a few examples of that at home. That's part of the inspiration for doing Flint Comix. Was running across that and going, you put comic strips together into a whole paper all by itself. That'd be awesome.
Do you know if they ever put like Prince Valiant together where as a book of all of the comics?
Oh yeah,
did they?
Yeah, all of the Foster stuff's been reprinted. I think most of the Gianni material that I reprint here is all available.
You got to sell with these to really capture the experience of Sunday comics. Play Silly Putty.
Silly Putty.
So I could, you go in, you press it on there. For all you millennials and younger, we would press the Silly Putty onto the paper, and it would lift the image up, and then you could stretch it and play with it.
And the cool thing is, because they've got a picture of Perry and her dad and them in here.
Yep, that's in there. 2
interviews by Perry. You could do that with her. I love the Impractical Jokers one she did.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. It's a lot of fun.
But yeah, I mean, the paper's a great thing, and the beauty of it is we hear a whole lot of things about Flint in the news and have for the last few years. Randy's been doing such a positive thing in that area, and what he does to thank everybody is he throws these comic fests, and they're very inexpensive to get into. He brings world-class artists and writers, and he brings Scott and I in as well, and Varian.
And Varian.
Yeah, Varian's coming out, right?
He'll be there.
Good, because our good friend Varian had a little health
some
challenge.
issues.
Yeah, he did.
And looking forward to seeing him and his wife Krista, and
Although
bring the boy out.
his humor is definitely back because I keep getting messages from him. So
I've seen his posts, and I knew he was feeling better. I just didn't know how well he was. So I'm looking forward to seeing Varian, because I have to pick on Varian every time when I see him there.
You need to get him on the show.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure that out, and I think we were talking about it, and also his health thing came up, so we backed off. But we're going to have him on, and main thing I think is just so we can kind of roast him the whole hour.
There you go.
I love Varian, and I love to pick on him a little bit.
Well, he made that post saying it's okay to make fun of him and his stroke. So
Okay.
so it's fair game now.
Oh, there we go. I need to see if we can license that song "Stroke Man."
Stroke me.
No, Stroke Man.
Stroke Man.
Stroke Man.
Stroke man.
Yeah, he's stroking to the east, he's stroking to the west.
Oh, never mind. I don't. I thought you were doing.
That's an actual song from the 70s.
Who
Is that before
stroke
your
me? Stroke me.
I don't know.
Stroke it.
No,
It's stroking.
I'll
It's
figure
called,
it out.
really, but
I forget.
I don't know.
He was
let's
popular in the
let's
70s.
move on.
Yeah, forget it.
So we got Flint Comix coming up on October 13th.
Yes.
Actually, it's, we call it the Fall Fest.
Or Fall Fest now.
It'll be the Flint Comix Fall Fest.
Yep. And last year we were there with you on Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
This year we got this in October, which is perfect because now they've got a lot of the fall flavors and stuff going to be in the farmers market. Best farmers market in the world is in Flint, Michigan.
It really is.
They have a great building. Inside you get all the fresh fruits and veggies like you expect to see at a farmers market, but they have the best little restaurants in there you can find anywhere.
Yep, every type of food you can imagine.
And this time of year, there's probably some really good apples in there.
Oh yeah.
Lots of pumpkin spice.
Yeah, and well, he controls the pumpkin spice, controls the white girl, so.
The quickening.
Yeah.
Quickening.
But it's like, we're going up on Friday, and
Now there
come
is-
and set up in that, but we're going to stay in the hotel, and the hotel includes a free breakfast that we will not take part of, because I'd
it's
rather
so
go
good
eat at the farmer's market.
Yeah, it's so
I'd
good
rather
at the
pay
farmer's
for
market.
breakfast, and then lunch, and then snacks. And you become a hobbit, because I'm going to have second breakfasts, I'm going to have third lunches, I have to have a snack in between.
That's right.
It's a lot during the show.
Oh, yeah.
I hear
Now-
that a lot. I'm going back for second lunch.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Now,
And it's
regarding
great.
the show itself, there is another event that might cause parking challenges. So what's your advice for people trying to get out there for parking?
There's a breast cancer walk that's happening downtown Flint in the morning, just in the morning. Sign up for that is at 8:30, and the run starts or the walk starts at 10. It gets over about noon. So if you don't want to have a lot of hassle or deal with a lot of people, I would suggest coming to the show about 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock. We'll be there until 5 o'clock.
Yeah, the beauty of it is this is one of those shows that we get a fresh crowd like every hour and a half, because it's not a big show. You're going to come spend, and we get people to spend all day, which is great.
I'm going to advise something different, though. Show up extra early and eat breakfast there, because the restaurant's so good for breakfast. Just wait till me and Brett get in so we can get
Well,
it.
we're going to get there early enough for when
eat
the
breakfast, and then you
cafe
can come
opens.
into the Flint Fall Show right when it opens.
Well, real quick, they can get the cafe, which has a great breakfast. If you don't want to do actual breakfast food or even their lunch stuff, go right out into the farmers market. If you like the Asian pho bowls, as they're called, from Vietnam, they have the best ones there I've seen in the area. You got a great barbecue place.
Yep.
Oh, they're really good.
Charlie's.
I like theirs.
Yeah, and they've got sushi. They have Mexican. They have Middle Eastern.
Every style hot
See,
dog.
we've been doing this
Imagine.
enough. It's like I have my schedule of what time, like at a certain time I go over to that little
The guy's got
convenience
the
store
little
in
stand
there
for the
and
hot
get the
dogs.
butter beer and then
Yep.
in the bottles.
Yep.
Mexican and Lebanese food.
Yep. They have
Every
Beirut
kind of
and all
food
this
you can
stuff.
imagine.
And it's all good.
And then people have the bagel place in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and they have places that do all the treats and stuff like that. And then, like I said, there's fresh fruits and vegetables you can buy. They have a meat counter where you can
Jesus,
buy all the
meats.
summer sausages, steaks, stuff like that. You can't go wrong in this place.
It's wonderful there. It really is.
it
Can't
is.
say enough good things about it.
And I came up to the first time I came there. It was strictly because Randy's putting on a show, and I love to support Flint Comix as much as I can. And when we were there, I looked at him and said, "Please don't ever move," because I remember the days of Masonic Temple, and that was fine. But
Yeah.
And
no.
as regular seasoned Comic-Con artists, we're so used to convention food just being awful, and it's such. I I just like doing the show for the
I'm
food.
considering going on a fast beforehand.
It's just
Well,
a-
I'll have dinner Friday night, and then I'm ready to go for Saturday. It's like I haven't eaten 3 days except for Friday night. I'm ready to.
What was that Mexican place we ate at? That was really good.
El Potreros?
Is that it?
Yeah.
The
That's
dinner?
off-site.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was good.
They have a little taste of Mexico just as you walk in the main entrance, so
that was
that's got
delicious.
good Mexican food as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right next to the Lebanese place.
Tornado Toast. Perry's dad loves that place.
Yep.
He's raved about that.
Awesome.
So I think this is super exciting. This is going to be, as usual, one of the best shows I do all year.
How do people find out about it online?
We have a Facebook event page under Fall Fest.
Fall Fest.
Fall Fest 2, technically, or Flint Fall Fest. You'll be able to find it just by using those search words. You have to look for it, though, which is a real problem because of Facebook's wonderful new algorithms.
Right.
We'll try to get a
They don't
link
want a lot of
up.
people to see
Yeah,
it.
we'll share the link on our Odd Musings page.
Yeah,
We can do
we'll
that.
drop it under the sponsors. We'll give a free
I can
sponsor.
cut and paste it into the comment section too.
And
later
Flint
on.
Comix is also up on Facebook with their own page, but you have to like us and follow us in order to
And
get
it's
any of
comics with an X.
Yep, it's Flint
COMIX.
Comix.
Yeah,
Yep.
so definitely check out
Nice.
Flint Comix. Come out to the Fall Fest at the Flint Farmers Market. If you can't remember anything but Flint Farmers Market, October 13th, 9 to 5. That's all you need. Come on out. We're going to have a great time. If you mention Odd Musings, you still get to pay to come in.
Yep.
That's right. And Connie, the Comic-Con mom, has chimed in. Her vote is for the Mexican place on Friday night. I am seconding that vote.
I think we need to do the family outing again. So
There you go. Yeah,
I think
we're gonna have to.
I think it was fun, and we'll try to make this a little bit of a tradition for us,
Yeah.
and
It's always
continue on this great
always
thing, and
fun.
keep promoting the fun of comics.
Being the foodie that I am, I have discovered a couple of other places up in the area
all right.
that are just incredibly good.
Well, we are open to good suggestions,
Yeah, that's
and we trust you on that because you have not
But
steered
hey,
us wrong.
if you're hooked on Mexican, that'll
Well,
be
she
it.
mentioned that because we've been there, but if you know someplace really good, why don't we mention it and we'll put it to the consensus? And the part of it besides good food is the good company. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's
Awesome.
so. But I did not bring my ad thing here, so I'm going to do a quick ad read.
Yes.
Because I know it pretty much by heart. I just don't know the phone number, so I'm going to Google it. But our sponsor for the show today is Loringer Family Chiropractic, available at loringerfamilychiropractic.com. You can find the link at oddmusings.com. They are located in Belleville, Michigan, as well as Dexter, Michigan. As you all know, I am a patient there. I had to go there last Friday unexpectedly. I don't know if I told you this, Scott. I turned my ankle making a delivery for Shipt. I hit a divot in the road or in the sidewalk I couldn't see, and definitely didn't break it. I pulled it, and I ended up finishing off my day. And what happened was I went in and got adjusted. Dr. Anna, who I normally see, wasn't in, so I saw Dr. Jen.
Now, it's interesting you say you went there. So you twisted your ankle.
Yes.
And you went to the chiropractor.
Yes, because what happened was I was walking fine. I felt it swelling a little bit. I knew from previous experience of having almost broke my ankle as well as severe sprains that it wasn't bad. It was just definitely pulled,
Right.
and it threw. It was on the right side, so of course the right side I have the internal erector set, as I like to call it now, from the previous injuries.
That sounds weird.
That's not that one.
Metal.
It's the metal erector set. Go back and Google
it's your
that.
hip, right? Is it your hip?
It was my hip. I've got the bolt and the bar that goes down the leg and screwed into the knee.
There you go.
So I felt everything was off. And
So
I could
you're
feel it in the
half
back of my-
Terminator.
Yep. So I went in and as Dr. Jen's adjusting me, she's like, "Oh my God, you really threw yourself out quite a bit." She goes, "You really need
Exactly.
this." So with doing that and then icing my ankle and my back after I got home that night, on Saturday I got up, still a little tender sore. Went through the whole day, iced at night. By Sunday I was back to normal.
Nice.
And I think that's really. I didn't have to go see a regular doctor. They didn't, to put me on crutches or to wrap it or anything like that. It allowed it to kind of heal. And by doing the chiropractic, it allows your body to help heal yourself naturally when you don't need to do this other stuff there. So, but I want to give you their phone number because they are located, like I said, Belleville, Michigan,
Belleville
Dexter,
and
Michigan. But in Belleville, it's 734-697-4244. That is their main location. But you can also find them in Dexter, Michigan. That's where Dr. Corinne is. That's Dr. Anna's daughter. But they're 734-426-3994. We have a link to their website on Odd Musings on their sponsor page. So go to oddmusings.com, click sponsorship, look at Loringer Family Chiropractic. If you're not in the area, give them a call. They can help refer you to someone in your area to take good care of you.
That's right. Go check them out.
Awesome.
Great.
So, at this point, I'm going to kind of hand more of this over to Scott, because Scott's going to be more the amusing side of this. But we were talking kind of the comic industry and certain things on this, and I think it's a great topic. I have my opinion on certain things, but most of my stuff is I'm not as up to date on stuff as we were talking earlier today on everything that you guys are. So I'm going to try to chime in what I can.
Yeah,
and go from there. So.
Well, and I got away from the business as far as comics go about 10 years ago when I started doing the paper.
Right. Yeah.
I've since gotten back in and more interested and started reading a lot more stuff. And I won't say I'm totally up to date with all the players, but I'm pretty close.
Yeah, Randy's kind of I would say you're on that, but you've also go back to where you've dealt in the past with distribution of comics.
Every aspect of comics.
Every aspect of it.
I absorbed it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
What I love about Randy is you're an information junkie. You love knowing facts, but you're also very level-headed. I tend to go one way, but you are very level-headed, and I always enjoy hearing your views on things because you really do take a very middle-of-the-road approach, I think.
Thanks for that.
And you hear it out, and you listen to what's going on. And my experience with you is it's a very thought-out process for you. So I always like to hear your take on things, and there's been some stuff going on in the comics industry over the last few years, but what brought this to a topic for today's show was another show recently had a guest that they uninvited because certain groups were mad that this person's opinions were being allowed into the show, and they ended up uninviting them.
We're talking a comic show, not a podcast show.
Yes,
right,
yes.
A comic convention.
A comic book convention.
Yep.
And so that kind of, and with you coming on the show, and I know how you pay attention to things, plus you have your own show.
Well, every time something like that happens, it has a tendency and the potential of becoming a domino effect.
Yeah.
So somebody gets banned on this show, all of a sudden they have to get banned on that show, or this guy has to get banned, or these people have to get banned, and pretty soon it could turn into a royal mess.
Yeah, so for those who are casual observers to everything, they may not know it, but there's a term out there, it's a hashtag term called Comicsgate that has kind of been applied to this overarching thing, which, now correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of Comicsgate the industry as a whole has been leaning towards one side of the political aisle and pushing certain agendas through their comic books, and people who disagreed with that started breaking off and doing their own, and they've been labeled as the Comicsgate people.
Labels are a terrible thing. I think that it leads to pigeonholing and stereotyping, but basically that's true. A lot of the people who came into power were of one political leaning, and then they started pushing everybody out because politics has gotten so polarizing lately.
Right.
They started pushing people out there that were of the other leaning instead of embracing the true diversity and inclusion that they think that they are promoting. And all that does, and if you look back on comic history, you'll see it holds out. Anytime somebody gets the shaft in the industry, and they still want to work in the industry, because speaking from experience, once you get something printed out there, it gets inside the blood, and then you want to do it over and over again, and it becomes so self-rewarding. You will figure out a way to get it done, and then you will figure out a way not to just get it done, but to overrule the system. And I think that's what you're starting to see here. You're starting to see the old system collapse with a new system being invented as they go along, based upon the bones of the opposition. And it's a shame that it has to be politically polarizing in order to get it done.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of times people will talk about how one of the defenses I'll hear is, well, comics have always been political. You go back, Captain America, World War II, and all these things.
Well, you can't get away from comics being a point of view, because it's an art form. Every art form is a point of view. And even if you go back on the history of comics, the comics come from the comic strips. The comic strip really starts with the editorial cartoon. Mm-hmm. The first real brand in comics was the Yellow Kid, who was a little Oriental or Asian looked like Dopey in a long T-shirt, really, down in the corner of every comic strip that had a political saying on his shirt or a punchline to the editorial cartoon, and that caught on so much they started telling stories, using words and pictures, and that became the sequential art strip. Mm-hmm. The sequential adventure strip ended up becoming the comic book. Right. The comic book became the graphic novel, and everything has kind of morphed into the market that we have today.
Right, and
it's real interesting.
The power of art as a whole. whether it's comics or even other types of art.
It's always point of view.
It's point of view. It sparks emotion. But the difference in today's atmosphere is they're trying to limit which point of view gets out there. And they're, instead of just allowing all people to express their point of view, they're trying to say, well, no, we don't like that one, so we want that censored and banned. And they're even taking to the point where they're looking up people online and saying, okay, this person needs to not be allowed at this Comic-Con.
Yeah, when you have to research somebody's social media all the way back to the founding of some of these sites, there's a problem.
Yes.
Especially when you first start out and you think that you can say anything, because who's listening to you? You're just some guy with an opinion who typed something on a board. And everything also gets so bent out of shape. Somebody said something which obviously meant they actually meant something else, which means that they're this label. And so that
and it's
causes
also
one problem after the next.
It's a medium that you can easily take out of context too. You'll have this long discussion thread, and they'll pull out this line item,
sentence,
and then they'll pull out the one sentence out of this 100 sentence thing and say, look what they said, instead of no one, and especially now attention spans are so low, nobody goes back and reads everything.
And we're all opinionated creatures, so we're all gonna give off an opinion or something. And especially in social media, it's easy to speak off the top of your
and that's what's been since the birth of the internet. I mean, Jay and Silent Bob and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in 2000 kind of discussed what's going on now with people being able to post what they want.
Right.
The thing is, we can't do what they did and print them all off and drive around and beat everybody up.
Scary part is 1984 talked about what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is come from way back. And 1984 was published in 1948, so I mean that goes way back.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's part of the problem. I think is like I said, everybody has a voice, everybody has an opinion, and now we get to the point of when these people say they don't agree with this opinion, what do they want to do? They want to ban people. They want to get rid of people. I mean, I had somebody try to ban me.
Yeah.
They claimed my artwork wasn't my artwork. It was proven it was. It took about a week, and I had great people in the industry supported me on this, and we got that squashed.
But the problem with that is it goes beyond just them accusing you. It turned into this movement.
Well, and it was also people not just accusing me of one thing. They started creating other statements.
Exactly.
That were very, and I mean, it was actually very sickening.
Well, you had to actually shut down your social media for a little bit, because weren't they going through your photos?
I shut my website down, shut everything down just for a few days, and then I brought it all back up and I posted what happened.
Right.
I never called the person out. I still will not to this day publicly say who they are. As I told you, I wish them no ill will, and people are like, well, why do you do that? Because I'm a better person in that way.
And the problem is,
I'm not saying I'm the best person, but I feel like, you know what, they need to learn from their mistakes and move on, but they also need to learn that everybody has an opinion, just like everybody has a butthole.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean you need to express it all the time.
Everybody usually has a butthole opinion.
Well, and the problem is, anybody who follows me, I think you know where I fall on this stuff. I'm pretty vocal on it, but the problem is these people. These people, they claim to be anti-bully, they claim to be tolerant and about diversity, and the second there's anything they disagree with, they bully people into censoring the people they don't like, and they've become the very thing they claim they hate. And if you don't like it, hashtag me. I don't care. But that's what they do, is they threaten and bully to get their thing through, and they claim, well, this is supposed to be a safe place. Well, okay, but everything you're claiming you're fighting is exactly what you're doing. And in your case, they contacted a couple shows to try to get them to ban you.
Yeah, well, they even claimed I was already banned from shows. They were going to allow me to show up because they didn't want to cause us a controversy. But come to find out, I was never banned from any of these shows.
No, but the problem is sometimes these shows, because they're so afraid of negative publicity, start caving prematurely. They don't.
Well, and this has been a few years now, and since then it's gotten worse with the.
It's gotten far worse.
People are immediately wanting to get. I mean, that's what happened with this other show. Was this person was basically, they were an invited paid guest too. They were a paid guest. It wasn't just like we want you to come on. It was a paid guest. It was uninvited. They tried to keep it quiet, but it got right out there because the person that was uninvited said, "I'm not playing this game.
Right.
Here's what's going on."
Right.
And it became this all this stuff. A lot of words were said when what I read about it. I read through it. I'm sitting reading it, and most of the accusing against this guy they were creating stuff that was never said.
Well, and my big issue was the people who invited him were well aware of this person's point of view
Right.
when they invited them.
He's been very vocal for a long time.
And it's a shame that you have to invite or uninvite people because of
You shouldn't, yeah.
point of view. That shouldn't happen. That should happen in the marketplace.
Right, yeah.
If you don't agree with somebody, don't buy their stuff.
Well, and then it's going even beyond that, where if you
Don't keep them from doing business.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
and then it goes beyond that to where
Let the market
there's
sort it
even
out.
threats of violence, where we
Yeah.
just had a conservative artist at a Comic-Con get punched in the jaw. Or the person had a fistful of quarters, went up to them, pretended to be a fan of theirs, and went to shake their hand. When they shook the hand, they punched them in the jaw, caused some real damage.
Were you talking about the guy from the Quartering?
Yeah.
He wasn't an artist. He was a commentator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You are correct. But he got sucker punched.
Yeah.
Because of his point of view. And these people who are anti-violence, anti-bullying, anti-whatever, they're openly calling for people to have violent attacks against them because they disagree with them. And there's no place at comic book conventions for that. That's where
None.
I'm very political outside of my normal life. I don't want any politics at Comic-Con when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I have friends who are complete opposites of me, and when we talk politics, we argue. But when it's comics, we're nerds. We love Star Wars. We love Marvel. We hate DC. Sorry.
Have your likes and dislikes.
We have our likes and dislikes, and that's what that's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be where it was like, well, I don't like you. Well, who cares if I don't like you? If I don't like you, I don't like you. You do your own thing.
Well,
Let's walk away. There's plenty
the
of other
Comic-Cons
people.
for years were actually a safe place because all of us that
really-
are the geeks and nerds that really felt the outcast from societies when we came to Comic-Cons.
That's where
When I started coming to Comic-Cons 28 years ago, it was like one of those things like, wow, these are people that are like-minded. They like a lot of the same movies. They like a lot of the same comics. They're actually reading comics, not just like going, oh, I haven't read a comic since Archie at the dentist,
Literally your escape mecca.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
You look forward to the shows because you knew you were going to be around all these other people.
Right.
And that you could be geek.
And getting
not
in
have
the
to worry
industry
about
as a
everybody else.
professional made it even that much better because now I'm talking to these people that one are coming to me and buying comic from me, buying artwork.
Oh, yeah.
And if they liked it, it was that much better because they're like, oh my God, this was so much fun. I can't wait to see what else you can do. And it was never about what's going on in the world, what's going on here. And then those that try now and bring that in, and it's gotten in the last 5 years worse.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, it's fine. You have a point you want to say and stuff like that, but now you're trying to limit anybody else's thing because you decide, oh, in their real life, outside the Comic-Cons, you don't agree with some of their likings, but now you're going to say they can't come here, and their stuff is not political.
Right.
Right.
Well, even like in Star Wars, for instance, there's a voice actress who she does voices, and she mimicked the voice pattern of a certain person that was in the news lately, and now those groups are threatening to boycott Star Wars Resistance, the cartoon, because she plays the voice of one of the characters, and they want her fired because she dared do this commentary. And the thing is, these people, one person comes out and does that, and they want their whole life destroyed, their career destroyed. But meanwhile, every single late night show, Saturday Night Live, all these different things, they're openly mocking the people on the other side. They have more than enough representation of people who mock people that share their point of view. I'm not calling for these people to be fired just because I disagree with them.
Right.
But this person dared do a voice impression of someone that they agree with. They want this person completely fired and barred from the industry. It's ridiculous.
And that's what I definitely don't understand. I don't know what your point of view is on that, Randy, but I find it ridiculous that they want to. I don't agree with you. So now you must be banned, your life destroyed, and everything else.
Yeah, if you can't have a level of intolerance and or of tolerance and inclusion, then there's there's a
Well,
problem.
and then they go
Especially when it
even
comes to
farther.
hobbies.
They'll look into your social media.
Oh, they'll scour your social.
Well, yeah,
media.
but a lot of artists have to work other jobs to make livings because it's not easy being an artist and making a living.
Yeah.
They'll try to contact employers of those people
they've done that in
to
the
try to
past.
get them fired from their day jobs.
That's happened.
It's like, come on.
Unfortunately, way too much.
Yeah, it's become this witch hunt,
Yep.
so to speak, and it's sad because I have a passion for comic book conventions. I I absolutely love being there. That's my time away from the world. I don't want to think about Democrats, Republicans, or I don't want to think about that stuff. Just do it. Just go there and have fun. Live in the fun.
My thing has always been with the Comic-Cons is, especially for those that are doing their own creations, like create good product, tell good stories.
Yeah.
If you have something you want to bring out that's a social issue and things like that, there's ways of telling it to where you're not, one, threatening other people, or two, are saying we need a ban. It's like, this is my take on this issue here.
Right.
And if you're telling it a good story with proper information, getting good facts, not creating lies, then it's going to tell the story and it'll help get it out. I mean, we've been in all the industries that we've always loved. And within Comic-Cons, like sci-fi, if you go back, you look at the original Star Trek, there was so much social commentary going on, but it wasn't about trying to ban any group or destroy any group. It was like saying, this is something we see going on, and here's a great way to tell it to actually spark good conversation.
The Orville is a great example.
Yes.
The Orville is telling awesome sci-fi stories that are taking controversial topics, exploring both sides of the issue, but also leaving it open to the viewer to decide. Star Trek Discovery is trying to push things.
Well, the thing with the Orville is that Orville is obviously a love letter.
Yes.
From Seth MacFarlane to the fact that of what you were saying, that he grew up with a Star Trek that looked like this, and so the Orville is like that. Now,
Right.
Star Trek Discovery is just a continuation of a franchise that has gone in.
Yes, Seth
a skewed
MacFarlane has a very definite point of view for his
But there's a level.
opinions, but he's not saying you have to, as a viewer of mine, you better agree with my point of view. He's laying it out in a way that gives pros and cons to both points of view.
And it's really interesting to see the Orville compared to Family Guy and the other animation work that he has done in the past, because a lot of times that can be very politically oriented. And you get up on the Orville and it's exactly the opposite. It's exactly what you were saying Star Trek was. It's thought-provoking. It's got stories with meaning in it, with metaphor in it. That
Well, even a couple of episodes like dealing with the sex of a child from this alien race.
Oh, that was so
the
well done.
conclusion really wasn't the way I thought they would go, but
It was brilliant the way they
it
handled it.
sparked great conversation and looking at this aspect, and that's what it should do. It shouldn't
That's
be
what it should do, yes.
And we're not all going to agree, even within these groups that claim to agree. The minute someone in their group doesn't agree with one little thing, they kind of attack each other.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of the fun of the opportunity of fantasy or even doing comic book work. Hopefully, we're going to live in a future where all of these problems and all of these discussions have just been overrun by tolerance and diversity and sensible thinking.
Come a little closer to the mic.
Well, actually,
Sorry,
I think
wandered away.
I think it's on the Facebook, so I moved them up closer to us.
got it. Okay.
Wandered away.
Yeah.
The thing with comics, especially, that I like to compare it to is comics has always been an immature medium. They were started as an afterthought, and there was a whole period there, especially in the 90s, when we were a horrible, immature medium of Beavis and Buttheads that liked the curves. All the women were done in circle templates, and all of the physical features were overly exaggerated. But we're growing up, and the problem is how do we want to grow up? Do we want to grow up as being a diverse and inclusive and a money-making genre or marketing with a lot of wonderful brands that say a lot of things, or do we want to be a stigma, divisive, polarized industry that isn't going to survive for very long if we're not being that inclusive and inviting every sort of money and opportunity in, so and voice.
I think it's a great way to put it.
But even if you there's a market for people who want the immature stuff, and it's okay if you make it.
There's very
we don't have to we don't have to ban them because well, I don't like how you draw women, so you can't do this. Well, if you don't like it, don't buy it. That's all.
Well, I tell everybody from my old man experience, having done this for so long, I remember conventions when it was all guys, and if a girl was there was something wrong. Why is she here? Well, either she really likes science fiction and fantasy, or her boyfriend dragged her.
I would say
it was either one or the other.
Yeah, 20 years ago when I started going, you
never
barely see
saw
any
the-
girls at the convention. I used to go to the Motor City Comic Con down in Dearborn, and you would hardly see any females there. You'd see a few here and there, but a lot of times they were with supporting boyfriend, husband, or they happened to, still supporting boyfriend, husband, running a table for them.
And if they actually liked comics, oh man,
Oh, that was
and that's the thing.
that was Spanish fly to the comic geek community.
that was it. Yeah.
But the reality is,
I remember those days, and they weren't that long ago.
No,
and
I mean,
now we are
2005 when I started doing shows as a professional, and you get a few girls coming out, and I would say 98% of the time they were just there with their significant other.
That's where the horrible
And then it
stereotype
started-
of
then it started to
the
switch.
guy in the basement came from.
Yeah.
You know, in his parents' basement. All he does is read comics or play video games all day. Well, all that's gone. You go to the conventions now, it's everybody. Everybody's there.
Yeah, we've got
And
a nice,
awesome.
it's a
Families
great
are
group.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people have embraced what it is and embraced the art form. They've
You wouldn't have
embraced
seen
it.
that back in the 90s.
No, not at all.
Now, when you had somebody there dressed in old-style Vampirella, you know, gathering lines of guys drooling, wanting an autograph.
Well, I'm going to take the opposition view on this for sake of argument. Plus, I believe it. I don't think it is all that great in that I think a lot of comic book convention fans are only there because it's currently cool. They don't care about the art. They don't care about the history. They're there to say we hate what comic book history is, and we're here to tear it down and rebuild it in what we want.
Well,
I think there's a big portion of that.
I do think that a lot of that is and again, we can talk comics philosophy about this for a long time, but I think a lot of that is also Marvel and DC's doing, but that's...
With the movies being so popular, bringing in...
Not just that, but I digress. The big thing with that is that the anime shows, I think, inspired a lot of that, and it also inspired a lot of the cosplay that you're seeing
That's a great
lead
point.
into the comics. And a lot of that comes from, quite frankly, the fact that Marvel and DC never catered to that audience for a good couple of decades, that they thought, well, girls don't read comics. They did all of their demographics back in the 80s, and they figured out your primary comic reader was 55, or actually 25 to 55, mostly white, all male, super large percentage male. And that's all that they wanted to cater their product to, especially when the direct market started, because that's where the money was, and that's where they were going to aim it. And heaven forbid you tried to do a comic aimed at females, or you did a comic aimed at kids, or you did an all-ages comic, because it just wouldn't sell, because that was the audience that were walking into those comic shops.
Well, and to be fair, companies are going to go where the money goes.
It's taken a while for them to start shifting. The big problem is once that shift started, all of these companies felt that it was necessary to go in and grab all of these people who, like you said, don't have a sense of history, don't have a sense of appreciation for the industry, and they want to do what they perceive as comics their way, and that's not the way to generate cash. That's not the way to generate income.
And they did this shift to cater to this 20% audience. And alienated
the 80%.
The 80%.
Yes.
And then it became all about, this is toxic masculinity.
Well, my big
and
complaint...
they'll throw terms like that on it to make it sound like, well, you're a caveman if you dare like the way these comics are.
And the sad thing about that is that there's actually a justification to their argument. Because of that demographic that was taken, and the fact that these large companies decided that's all that they were going to cater to.
Right.
Instead of, back in the 80s and 90s, instead of being diverse and inclusive, that's all they wanted to hit. Dark Knight sold so real well, so everything had to be dark, everything had to be realistic, and everything had to be muted tones, and you saw this so pervasive in the market that by the time anybody tried to re-steer the ship, that it's to the point now where they're trying to yank it and pull it back into the middle, and they pulled it too far.
Too far. Yeah. Well, and
they have to find their way back to the center. But
to tie into what Varian's asking, and I think this is a big part of it, is with everything going on, where do you see the comic book convention / pop culture scene in the next few years?
Varian was asking that.
Varian was.
Yeah.
We just had a great discussion. Actually, it was me kind of ranting at him more than a discussion about what's happened with all this. What's going to happen, because I just sat down and happened to think about this, and oh man, this is where the market's going, because I've seen this market alter and change and shift, and I've seen it go from the creation conventions to the big convention circuit to the little, from the little individual shows to the 3-day shows, and become a monstrosity and grow and contract. And I've seen Image come in and almost completely wreck the market when they came in. And,
we'll even look at San Diego Comic-Con
of the market.
When Star Wars first came out, you had Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford at this little table with handmade signs signs trying to promote this new movie. And now these are people who are getting $100,000 guarantees just to show up.
The first San Diego show I did, Kevin Smith come walking up to the tables and was buying stuff. Ruben Blades come in and stood behind the counter and sat there for a while as people walked by and thought they recognized him. And he's like, no, people say I look a lot like him, but it's not me. I was told Leonardo DiCaprio was walking through the show with a cap on. Or the first show, San Diego show I did, David Hasselhoff, who had already done Baywatch, was walking down the aisle like it was nothing.
I love the
Ron Perlman was walking around. He had just, was doing Beauty and the Beast at the time, but of course he was in makeup, so a lot of people didn't go, oh, I know who you are, buddy.
Right.
But yeah, that's the way the old conventions used to be, and now everybody's got bodyguards. Everybody just shows up just for their conference and then runs off, and that's all you see them. Or if they're on the floor, they're in disguise. I mean, total disguise.
But as far as where this is going, where are you seeing? Have we peaked? Are we on a downward trajectory? Where's your...
Varian asked that in order to get me started. So, try not to
Varian trying to cause problems again?
We don't have to sit here and try to explain to everybody all about Comicsgate and the diversiveness that's happened. But
I do believe, though, tying back to where the industry's going, you talk about how the big companies, how they were targeting where the money was, and they cater to a certain audience because of what their numbers told them.
Yeah.
But that also is where, in my mind, capitalism comes in. Is that
money drives everything.
Right.
Absolutely.
You got these big companies. They're typically these huge ships that are very hard to steer. But then you get the small startup independents, and they see where the market's going too. But they're able to react like this because they're not trying to please a million people. They're just trying to please their 20 fans.
But again, you're dealing with an old system, and there's also two major problems with that. You have Diamond Comics, who are constantly telling these independent comic companies what sells.
Yep.
They don't want to see an independent. They don't want to see a fresh thought.
Exactly.
We were told flat out by one of the representatives at one of the shows that every company that's in the green section of Diamond previews, Diamond's goal is to have them dry up and blow away. And if they don't dry up and blow away, then they want them as exclusives, and then they want to get them out of the green section as soon as possible. The green section was death to anybody that was in that preview.
And what got you
into flat out?
And what got them into that section? Why would they be?
Because they weren't an exclusive company. They weren't out there making. You had to take a certain percentage. I think it was 1% of the market at the time before Diamond actually wanted to recognize you in order to make you that exclusive deal.
Right.
And second of all, the large companies, the market right now is too small and too big.
Yes.
It's too big in that Diamond controls what the product is. Diamond has had a monopolistic hold on distribution since the 80s. And the market is too small because Marvel and DC are so small, and the millions of dollars they generate don't come close to the billions of dollars that the movie makes.
Right.
So these large companies see the publishing end of it as a vanity business.
Yeah.
And that, we can take a loss. We'll just throw whoever.
It's more like a marketing expense for them to keep the names alive.
It's an advertising.
It's an advertising.
And they have advertising budgets for the movies that they make that are larger than the income that come in off of these comic companies.
Right.
So they don't have to pay any attention to that. In the meantime, you've got the crazies coming in, running the comic companies, and deciding, you've had people up there for decades that I think should have been fired a long time ago. There was a problem I stopped trying to pitch anything to Marvel or DC back in 2003, back when I made a proposal to an editor that I really respected at the time, and he looked at the proposal and what I wanted to do with the character, and he looked me straight in the eye and said, "We own this character?" And I'm like, dude, if you don't know what characters you actually own, then why am I doing this?
So, with the changes that are coming,
the publishing companies are so small. They're generating too small income. Diamond is too big, and they're regulating what kind of product you can do, and they're stuck in the middle. So what's going to happen is that industry is either going to change those two aspects of the industry either have to come in and radically change really fast, or they're going to collapse.
And the collapse is
in the middle of that is the retail shops.
Well, and then you have another leg. you have the independent people who, through social media, through fundraising sites, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, things like that. You got people now being able to just say, you know what, I'm going to make my own product and sell directly to my fans.
I did a Spank the Monkey series a long time ago about the comic market, and that's the big thing that I learned in the first issue about the history of the market. Is every time the art form grows, the art form's like any other art form, it's always growing and evolving, just like with painting and your different periods in any kind of genre art form that generates cash or attention. It's always evolving. And right now, that market, whenever it stagnates, whenever somebody gets shafted in that stagnation, they will eventually find a way to get around it. That's why I was doing the paper. It was because I was fed up dealing with these crazies back in 2003, long before anybody else started going, oh, this character shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't evolve that character in. That I knew the editors up there weren't up to snuff. So I stopped looking inside the market, and I still wanted to do comics, so I was looking outside the market. That's why I started the paper.
Yeah. So now you got people...
And it's the same thing with the web strips are the same thing. For a while, their web strips were making hard money, and then they stopped making money because the system shifted, and now it's videos. Videos are bringing in an audience now to generate enough hard money, and that's gonna keep going for a while. And right now, as long as the internet stays up, you're going to see these guys are going to keep growing, and they're going to keep making money because they can talk directly to the audience that has.
And these are people with large enough followings. They're making far more money doing their own thing than if they were to work at any of them.
And the key thing is they don't have to make much to make more. Right. Because Marvel and DC have always kept these people working as cogs. That was it. You're a pencil cog. You're an ink cog. You're a Superman, superhero cog. You draw girls really good, so you get the good girl drawing cog, and that's all that we want you for. Yeah. But these guys are out there doing their own stuff, and they're figuring out their own system.
Yeah, you got they can go directly now. They don't need a large firm to represent them.
No.
Social media creates their platform.
Yep.
And B, the other big hurdle is printing costs. Well, that has come so far down over the course of the last 10, 15 years.
Well, that's debatable considering what format you're printing in and where you actually want to print.
You don't have to have a million copy run anymore.
No, you don't.
I can my comic. I ordered 250 issues for my first run.
But in order to equate that, because your per unit cost is higher, your cost to the consumer has to be higher too. You're not seeing dime comics anymore. You're seeing $5 comics.
My comics are 10, and people pay for it. Yeah. Dominic sells his for 10, and people pay for it. They would rather pay for a good quality independent comic that has a passion to it in its creation than paying, I don't know, what's a cover price now for a Marvel?
Well, they're $3.99.
$3.99.
They've gone from mass production to vanity production.
Yeah. But now,
what's happening.
When I go to the comic shop and I look through it, I'm like, who are these artists? They're horrible. Half the stuff I see on the shelf, it's like, I was drawing that in 5th grade. Yeah. Why is this guy getting paid for this?
Well, so we're seeing a lot of these guys that have been around for a long time, the good artists like that, who have left the industry in a lot of ways, gone to things like, Eric mentions Cyberfrog, $500,000 on
Indiegogo.
On Indiegogo, I think it was, or
600. 620 something.
Yeah, wow. So Eric's even out there on that. Growing. Yeah. He mentions Alterna Comics is going gangbusters on newsprint. I mean, people are finding other ways, even going back to newsprint, using that now, which is not what they use in the industry anymore.
Again, comics were always looked at as cheap literature. Yeah. That's why they were on the stands initially at a dime. Because, well, what's the market going to pay for this? Maybe we can get a dime for it.
And this isn't just in comics. I mean, look at the music industry. You used to have the powerhouse studios. Now there's people, they make tons of money just
Band Pledge is one of the ones I use for that, and some of my favorite bands like Bowling for Soup, Dolly Grass, I mentioned them quite a bit. Both use like Band Pledge, or even there's a new duet with the lead singer of both bands that's coming out. I supported. It's coming out in, I think, November, December. Mm-hmm. They didn't even do the Band Pledge. They just said, hey, this is our website. Here's the link. Click here. You pay the PayPal, and you're going to get this, and this.
Yeah,
and they're doing it themselves.
They're able. The industry can no longer be the gatekeeper to say you can or cannot because I don't like you. people are able to now go straight to the people, which is amazing.
Well, Marvel and DC have been gatekeepers since their inception, and Diamond has really been badly gatekeeping since the 80s.
Yeah.
So, and then again, you have another gatekeeper out there that's suffering from all of this, that are going to suffer more the more that this stuff keeps up, and that's the retailer.
Yes.
Out there, the little mom and pop store that just wanted to sell comics.
And that's where
their product now is horrible.
Too now.
Well, and that came out several years ago. A guy I know runs a shop, and he had said, how can I make money off this digital stuff? Because I can't, And realistically, I mean, for a while there, I don't know if Marvel's still doing it, because I'm not buying very many Marvel comics. I'm buying more independent and other ones. They were including a digital version of the book, but I know they're pushing their monthly platform of subscription to get Marvel comics. I believe it's more older stuff and not anything current.
Well, they were pushing an all digital format in San Diego. They said they weren't even going to print hard copies of a lot of their books because they were selling so terribly. They were just going to offer digital.
Yeah, they're going that route.
Because when you can get the same cost for a digital file as you can for a paper file, you've cut off the printer.
Yeah, and what they've heard the shops, they've heard the secondary market of the collectors.
Well, I think that Marvel's backtracked a lot on that aspect. I think they got a lot of feedback on it because the Vision book that what's her name was working on, that it was taking her 2 years to get done. They canned that book outright instead of taking it digital, which would have been one of their things that they should have taken straight to digital, but they didn't. So
we're starting to run out of time here. So
I think we've solved the entire comic industry. Just come to Flint Comix.
We barely labeled it.
Fall Fest.
Any final parting thoughts to wrap up?
Pigeonhole in there.
I think we're going to have Randy back to talk more about this because I think
that's what you said last time. It was like
I know
6 months ago.
Well, I mean, it's just time.
You're always welcome.
Everybody's busy.
I know everybody's busy. So I think what we need to do is,
hey,
in all seriousness, if we'll figure this out. We'll talk more even next week. Is maybe we need to plan a special 2-hour episode to talk more into the comic industry and even the history of comics. I think Randy's got such a wealth of knowledge. I'd love to explore that and go from there. And because we've got some guys like Varian chiming in, Eric chiming in, that are all part of the industry. And I don't know. Maybe we figure it out. Maybe I'll talk with Scott more, and maybe we need to have some of these guys come. We do a big round table, 2-hour odd musings extravaganza.
There we go. We'll solve all of the industry problems and get Dennis Barger in here, and we'll all just go crazy.
At that point, I think we're gonna have 3 hours because Dennis is
the whole retail.
Well, and Dennis is actually the one I was mentioning. I was trying to because he's not paying us to be on the show, but I'll mention Dennis Barger. He's the one I mentioned about how do I make money off this digital stuff. It's because I can't do it in the shop, and and then you can't. It's really is what's going to happen is these shops that are a lot of people think these shops are like these big things. No, these are mom and pop shops. Some people do have multiple shops. Like you mentioned comics over in Pennsylvania. You got comics.
Even think about
I retailed for a while.
And you retailed, so you know how that is.
Think about when you go into a comic book shop
in the 80s and 90s.
Comic book shops, you walked in and it would be comics.
Yeah.
Now it's like a small section of comics and a whole bunch of collectibles. And I think a lot of them
collectibles and gaming,
depending upon the shop and what they're actually generating income from.
Well, and a lot of them, I think, really just use their store as a warehouse, and they're really selling at comic book conventions
or eBay.
And the store is just their warehouse. That
they need to pay the location,
into.
so you might as well run it as a retail so you can make the money. That's what a lot of them do. So it's not just about comics anymore.
It's very hard to survive in that. But
this was great.
On that note,
anyway, Flint Fall Fest is October 13th. Runs from 9 to 5. It's only $5 to get in. Lots of different people there. Lots of fun going on.
It's a great show.
Lots of Star Wars representation. I think this time through, we'll have a few droids coming around. A guy who's got did a fan flick up in Vassar is going to be on display. The Saber. We've got a Saber troop that'll be on display. The Rebel Legion and the 501st are invited. So there ought to be a lot of fun stuff walking around that farmers market.
It's going to be a fun costume contest.
Flint Farmers Market, 200 East State Street in Flint. Yeah, there'll be a costume contest. We're moving that back to 2 o'clock just to, let the cancer run people go through a little bit. So we expect it to be incredibly busy that day. It's going to be a madhouse. So,
and then Crazy Mark will be running that as usual.
As usual. Yeah, that's Crazy Mark.
That's Crazy Mark.
He just runs with a camera and it's crazy, amazing.
He does such smooth camera.
He's gotten so much better over the years from a Wayne's World type production to doing something pretty close to
definitely has. So next week when y'all join us, we have no idea what we're going to talk about. We'll figure it out between then.
And that weird guy Varian will be there too.
Yeah, we'll see Varian. So that's great to see him on that. But until next time, Scott, take us out.